We go.
If you're sitting here watching this stream today, you cannot underestimate how ahead of the curve you are right now.
Bitcoin looks tired. All coins look hungry.
I'm just not quite sure that Bitcoin has any more solves.
I still think this thing is really worth a lot more than it is.
This stuff's spooky, man. These chaos PRZs are intense.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Solana is highly performant and has the team with the experience to support it.
$4,800 Ethereum. That's a big, big move here.
Whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to DeltaFi on Hero Labs with myself, RT, and Rob Levy in the house today, sipping coffee. Morning, Joe. Late morning for me. Slept through the CPI print, already positioned. And as Will Russell pointed out, he said, slept in a BTC long last night, feeling great today. So good on you to position yourself for that. I try not to day trade into things like the CPI, but when you're long, you're long. How about you, Robbie? How are you enjoying today's festivities?
I want to know, like, how does it feel to be a macro trader? Is this what you signed up for, to trade fucking CPI prints on Wednesday mornings? I don't know.
No, I don't like this timeline of, I was talking about that yesterday, like the correlations, all that stuff, but I do like number go up when I'm long.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not doing any degen leverage stuff, but the Ethereum bag is smiling today. That was a really, really nice print. We're going to get into the charts today, guys. Fortunately, Gunny's getting some time off this week. Unfortunately, we moved to Wednesday, which totally messed up Messy, so he's not going to be able to make it today. But we will be back next week and with the full squad. Until then, you're stuck with Rob and myself.
With us.
Let's get right to it. Let's just go look at Ethereum BTC. I really like this chart. I was messing around with some trend lines yesterday for the hell of it. And this is an interesting rising wedge we had into resistance on lower ring volume. So I'm very pleased to see it break to the upside because, these things can go both ways. So today we've got a really nice strong move up. So ETH is outperforming Bitcoin especially, but a lot of the other coins. And that's all I have to say about that.
I think we're going to talk a lot about ETH today. And I think that you're going to hear a lot about ETH for the next 6 weeks. I think ETH is going to be the story. This merge coming up. There's interesting things going on in the Ethereum futures curve, in the forward world of Ethereum. We're starting to learn more about what people are valuing with respect to Ethereum proof of work fork and other potential forks that are going to be distributed to people who actually own ETH. So that means that people are buying spot ETH so they get the value of these whatever forks, and they're hedging that flat exposure with selling derivatives, selling futures against it. And you're starting to see what that's doing to the market. I think the August-December future spread traded as low as 41 cents yesterday. That's a big premium for August to Dece. And so people are definitely putting the trade on. It's gonna be interesting. This market's gonna be good, I think. I think it's going to be a really good trading market, which is going to spill over into the ETHBTC chart like you showed. That thing looks hungry and extended. I mean, look at that flat. Look at
I mean, this is just like a 1.5 year consolidation. If this thing breaks to the upside, and it almost feels like when, based just on the merge, how it's going to affect token emissions. But yeah.
And I think it's going to be volatile, though. If it breaks up, you better believe you're going to see a sharp pullback on it because this is an event. There's a lot of interest here that is going to unwind, right? After a big event, what happens? People take risk off. All these future spreads they put on, all that stuff. Risk comes off after an event. And when risk comes off quickly, we're going to see big moves.
And then probably and then that leads to some licks and some stop runs of everyone who got in late. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's for traders. This is an exciting event coming up. I shit you not. It's going to be fun to watch.
Arthur Hayes called it one of the best investment opportunity setups, or like trade setups, fundamental trade setups in his last essay. I read it. Basically, it was just like, you're just not going to see something that's so crystallized as far as what it means to an asset. And then also to be gifted, in his terms, which I would argue too, is like gifted an entry where you had these liquidations, you had 3 Arrows Capital blowing up, you had all these people having to offload ETH at a price they didn't really want to offload it at, into this 90% reduction in emissions paired with can't unstake for the first little while till the next upgrade. It's a pretty intense setup. And so after reading his article last week, or his essay, it's like a 40-minute read. Highly recommend it. Should pull up a link here. But anyways, I read it, and it helped me kind of crystallize my thinking into the next little bit. And I saw some bigger positions I had, and things like AVAX and some other coins that I just thought, or Bitcoin even, and I was like, I think I can swap these over for the next little while. I want to be on the fastest horse. I want to at least think in terms of how to get more ETH. So I started looking at some ETH pair charts, thinking if I'm getting outperformed by ETH badly on a certain position, I can just buy it back later. Mm-hmm. And I think it still will. I imagine these will continue to skew towards ETH for the next few months. So I'm going to grow my AVAX by swapping it to ETH. Hopefully. Yeah. Stuff like that. So I really appreciated his insight, and it gave me some kind of more like, I kind of was like, oh yeah, I'm bullish on ETH, but I wasn't positioned such that, I hadn't rotated some of the older bags that I had. So I did a bit of that last week, and so far it's paying off.
It's, I'm telling you, the derivatives market here is it's gonna heat up, and it's gonna be a signal to watch. Let's pull up. Why don't you pull up? Let's see, on FTX, the futures.
What are some of those tickers?
Yeah, just go ETH US. What is it? ETH 12.
Oh yeah, I see it. ETH December futures. Ooh.
That's the weekly.
Spicy.
So what's it trading right now?
1810.
Yeah. And where's spot ETH?
Spot's 1843, so it's actually at a discount right now.
Yeah, that's showing you that people are putting on this trade. People are pricing the fork higher than like $31, I'd say. $32. Like, we're gonna find out what this like fork means to people. Value-wise.
I heard about that trade last week. I'm glad you brought that up. The idea of just having a large spot position, hedging it so it's kind of delta neutral, and then you're just getting that exposure to any potential forks.
Yep.
Then you could just auto dump the forks, close your hedge, sell your ETH.
Yeah. It's gonna get priced. It's being priced as we speak right now, and that's gonna create more volatility in ETH also. So it is like, listen, you get a few more guys like Arthur Hayes pounding the table, and he's got a big reach. You're gonna get a lot more just retail, like people getting into the trade.
Yeah, he arguably moved the market last week. I don't know if I'd give him that credit. I know a lot of people read his stuff, but it was extremely bullish, and I did notice a little move in the price kind of in the hours following that essay being out. And part of it was me, because I bought some.
True, but even it was off like 8% yesterday. You could have bought ETH yesterday at 1660.
Yeah,
it was, and now it's 1846, whatever, 10% up. But this thing is the market's, no one's really standing in there with great liquidity. So
it was right here.
Moving.
Actually, I feel so fortunate to find that essay right here, in sort of like, it was kind of a really nice little fib combination, because it was down in this local pump chaser zone right here, and then even in a zoomed in even more into like a little reload zone, so you could just risk, right to these lows for that setup. Yeah, and then it was like hours after, and this candle came after the essay came out.
What do you see here on the chart? What are some targets here?
Okay, let's zoom out. You know what's funny? I haven't done a lot, I think, in terms of setting targets yet as much as like dates, but let's take a look. I think 2,500 is a really interesting level for Ethereum. It's on a lot of people's radars. I think I drew it that way because of the weekly. Yeah. So if you look at the weekly candle body lows, they kind of align here. Right there at 2,500, which also happens to be the perfect entry to the reload zone, the 618. I love how that stuff lines up so often. And so we're just breaking out of what I remember. I was speculating earlier this year. I said, what if this whole, dump down here and then reversion was just like this 3 arrows capitulation? And then we look back in time later and the market just starts to live above here indefinitely, whatever that looks like. It's possible. So we've taken back that entire unfolding of that situation now. We're back into sort of where price was before all that C5 blowing up. And now, sky's the limit within this range. It doesn't look too filled in. So there shouldn't be, there's going to be some work here, probably take out some highs here, some squeezes, and what that looks like. But I'd be shocked if we don't tag 2,500 sometime. I don't know where I want to put that time, around by the end of the year, through the merge, even sooner. Or I think Hayes' idea was more like into the March 31st expiry.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is the type of an event, and maybe just based on some of the fanfare and already some of the posturing by pretty big traders, influential traders. I think it could be that the catalyst to really give it a ride. It's not going to take a lot. It's going to take a few big bets by some big people who see opportunity. And I think it's the perfect type of event to do it. So I wouldn't be shocked if we made a run higher here. I don't know who's going to be really in a rush to pound it leading into the event. People are gonna pound it eventually, but it's where do they initiate that aggressive short from? After we've run up to 2,700, where they feel comfortable. Think about how extended we'll look there. I don't know how many people are really going to dig in on the short side this early before the event. Personally, I'm just kind of thinking through my view.
Yeah, it's the idea is obviously, what happens into the event, we should pivot afterwards. Arthur's case being no, this is going to rinse a lot of people who are trying to sell the news, because the reality is once this goes live, the impact on the tokenomics is going to be so profound that you can sell the news. There'll definitely be some people selling that day. But his thesis being basically that no, price is just going to continue to moon after that, because demand would have to crater for it not to just have some continued up and to the right effect on price to reprice it. And then if you're thinking, if it's deflationary forever, and that's always the wet dream of a crypto project, right? Because you say, oh man, if I just hold this like BNB, they're burning every month. It's a scarcity thing over time. There'll be one BNB left someday. If that's the model for ETH now, you know what I mean? So it's going to be an interesting hold, because it actually has that demand. Right? A lot of these coins that say that, but they just have no real demand. It's very rare to get both. These are a couple levels that I'd be keeping an eye on long term, not long term, but into March maybe. It'd be really interesting to see. The nice thing about these EMAs that you and Dan put me on, you and Gunny, is that on the daily, it makes it really easy to just remind yourself what the trend is. And so on those big dip days, I'll look over at the daily. I'm we're just testing the EMA of our trend. Let's pick some up.
Yep.
And so I've been riding this one nicely, and generally these things accelerate. So don't be shocked if, this moves fast, because there's going to be a lot of stops hidden here that'll blast price higher. If that's today, if that's next week, but this looks really promising today. As far as this is not just any level, right? This is the level. This is a big, big, big level. Yeah. So if we get this close and live up here from now on, it could really take off. I think there's a lot of traders waiting for that level to say, okay, I'm back in, I'm a bull.
Yeah. I know it seems like I'm getting super, super fired up and excited about this event and the next whatever, but I don't think we've seen it yet. I think you're going to see this sort of hype coming and you're just it's going to get more hyped by market people soon. I do. I think it's going to be one of those like, holy shit, this is all what people are talking about right now.
Jim Cramer will be talking about it before the end of the year. Promise you that.
Yeah.
He'll say, well, these Ethereum, I took a big position in Ethereum at $3,500. And then he's going to mark the top right up here.
Yeah, you know who the winners are going to be are the exchanges here. Exchanges love this type of shit. It's like a Super Bowl type of thing. There's just more betting. People are going to be putting on positions. They're already positioning in the futures markets so they can hold more ETH. Like it's a good one. So I
feel bad. I saw some guy on Twitter. I mean, I don't feel that bad. It's kind of just the way she goes. But I did shed a tear for him talking about still waiting to buy under 900. I said, bro, it was at 900. It was like, what was the low here? Like 8. It was at 881. It's like, you missed it. It was at 900. And one of the things I learned, and that's not to say like, endorsing kind of FOMO buying on a day like today, but one of the things I learned is how to buy something even though I missed the best entry. Where I used to just pass and maybe it would break up and, I'd be like, oh, I'll wait for that dip, wait for that setup. Knowing on some kind of midterm thesis or play that it was really going to run. So being able to get in even if I'm a little late to the start of the move because, whereas previously I'd sit out entire bull runs on a coin because I missed like that initial entry. So I'm getting better at like jumping in a little later, learning how to change my mind when I get new information.
Yeah. But you had a good point there though. I think one of the things to do in the spot market and stuff is you can express ETH length however you want, right? There's a delta neutral way to do it. If you have futures, you can bet on what the proof of work, like forks, are going to be worth just by holding it, and you can sell futures to minimize your actual directional exposure. But the ETH Solana pair, the ETH Polkadot, the ETH AVAX, you never know. It's a trickier position to put on because AVAX, Sol, Polkadot, those things can go up 10, 20% in a day also, just because they're illiquid and people rush into it. So, but the bottom line is you can move into ETH for the fork with your spot stuff and then get right back into the other coins you were in. So,
exactly. Like swap out AVAX to ETH, grab your forks, go back to AVAX.
Yeah, do it for like, even if you own whatever, if it's ZRX, if it's, a lot of exchanges have ETH pairs. You could obviously swap on Uniswap or wherever, but that's another way to play it. So
that's interesting too. Like once you get confirmation, we're going to hear this fork stuff heat up. Somebody asked in the chat, is there going to be an ETH fork happening? I would guess that there is. I think there are some miners signaling already that they'd like to not be out of business. So they're going to probably try to keep some kind of POW chain alive. I've already noticed some businesses are signaling that they won't support it, that they're only going to go forward supporting the POS ETH. And it's no doubt going to make that game theory like 10x in complexity, because now, like, I didn't even think of that, but now you've got people coming in from any given coin into the event because they all are scrambling for that, basically like an airdrop, right? And then what happens post airdrop on all these hype coins? I'm thinking of that one. What was that one? Like Zcoin or something from back in 2017 that did that insane run pre airdrop.
Holy shit, that guy wrecked
hundreds of X and then just went to like 0. So if you tried to trade that for the airdrop, you got your airdrop. It wasn't worth as much as the 90% down bag in 10 seconds, but be careful. Like, this is going to be interesting. I just want to be spot long ETH. And the closer we get, I know this is taboo, you shouldn't do this, but the closer we get, the more I don't want to just rush to sell the news.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
The bottom line is selling the news might not be right, but I will tell you that you are going to see some sharp moves. There will be some sell-offs that'll look nasty. People are going to be getting out of positions. Liquidity's it's just not that great, and it's going to move. Like
there's a ton of positions being put on for that event, and they're going to come off. And that's just going to cause like a whole clusterfuck. It's going to be insanity. on that day. I'm not going to day trade that.
Yeah. No, I think you should.
I watch it though. Get the popcorn. Get the popcorn.
Get your charts up. But what does this mean for the ETH ecosystem plays? Are there some gems there that should be looked at kind of right after the move? Like, are people going to be swapping some of their kind of ETH related tokens into ETH right before getting back in? Are there some plays that maybe we can sniff out where after the merge they should...
The rotator plays?
Yeah.
So I got my forked ETH. I've ridden the rally. The liquidity's been brought in, and just like Bitcoin used to lead the alt seasons, it then gets distributed elsewhere. I would be looking at things that are showing early signs of being in line for that kind of a play, which would be like LDO, which is that staking protocol, the liquid staking, whatever. This is the big mama. This is the leader, and it's pushing up into a key resistance level. So if this breaks free on this kind of volume, I imagine it will. Like, I'd be shocked if this is the top we end up getting. And so with LDO making another move, and then it's just into kind of this price discovery world, which is always exciting, because that's where the speculators come in, and the sky's the limit. Everyone's like, oh, it could be worth this, it should be worth that. And if that happens, then you should probably bet on RPL taking some chase to that, because this is another one of those that's following. I've also been keeping an eye on this guy here. Actually, I think I have it over here. Swise, Stakewise. It's got this pool here. Now this actually is in a really cute spot today. I was looking at this earlier. Let's see if it's up. Yeah, look at this. Just, coming out of this big, whatever you want to call that. It's not even a cute bottom formation. It's kind of like lower lows, but it's getting the bid. 28 million cap. It's a much lower cap, so I think it's going to catch that sort of ape bid, chasing the LDO and RPL stuff. And it's sitting down here in the PCZ on the other side of the trend line. I really like this coin today. I haven't picked any up. Adding to it, I think I picked some up at like 15 cents a few, right around here. So I may add. So these are the kinds of coins right now that are catching the bid, catching the narrative. Also some DeFi blue chips, I believe. I haven't been really watching them too closely. Link looks good.
Yeah, someone mentioned Link. And isn't there something like, is staking an event that's going to do something there? I mean,
I can't tell you. I honestly don't really do any kind of liquid staking or any stuff like that, but I don't know. Token use case, it's governance. I don't know. But look at Link. So I would like to get Messi on here to talk a little more about what does LDO do? What does RPL do? These are the kinds of questions eventually you're going to ask yourself if and when you hold it all the way through a rally and you're sitting back, you're down 80% from the highs, and you're like, what's the token use case again? Yeah, so it's not a bad idea to look up to it now. More just playing the patterns right now, which is my favorite way to play the market, where you're just looking for sectors, patterns. You say, okay, these three rallied. Oh, this one's just like those. Oh, it's a 5 mil market cap. It's probably going to 3x next month. And then you size into it a bit.
Yeah.
So those are, yes, agreed. Nice move on ETH today, Peter. So, yeah, I mean, if we get the bullish close today, I would be expecting to see pretty short order of these highs made in the next, I'd say, 8 days, next week. There's a lot of stop losses for people that tried to short this big level. They're going to be hiding their stops above this peak, this peak, this peak, this peak. And so that could create an all-in-one squeeze of those levels, whatever that ends up looking like. But
yeah, I do think, but it's still overall, the market in general, it doesn't feel like it's got real juice, real follow through. I think there is still this like very real overhang from macro markets. And I know, I'm in the US looking really focused on US stuff and the CPI and all that, but 80 to 5% of the world is outside the US. So the story in Europe and in Asia, really we have to watch macroeconomically. If the hard times continue and we see some headwinds there and some selling, like, I don't think that ETH and all this shit's just gonna moon, because it's not that type of like atmosphere out there, at least from what I can tell. Now in crypto, that can change. It can easily change. But like, Bitcoin's still sitting at 24,000 right now. If there was real kind of gusto, we've had a nice little stretch of decent, like no negative bombs dropped. Like the thing could have rallied a little bit. Like no one's stepping in there with real money and saying, I want to own a lot of this right now.
Look at the weekly though. Now I think I know why this is, but look at this weekly volume.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want to see following, a capitulation kind of high volume sell. And then you just see these like big bids stepping in down there. The one thing I will say, as much as I'd rather just paint this purely as a bullish thing, is that it's not on the other exchanges. And then I remembered that Binance enabled fee-free trading of spot Bitcoin, feeless trades. And so I think they just had a ton of volume those weeks when they announced that. But not to be ignored though. I mean, it's a pretty interesting bid.
Coinbase, because that's like pure spot. That's kind of like a...
Yeah. They mentioned something about, getting a lot of onboarding recently from first-time buying investment funds and institutions. So that's kind of cool.
I'm a little... Listen, it might happen. It might suck that gap quick. I'm just not...
It should.
Yeah.
Look at this chart. It looks like it just wants to move.
It does, but it's
where's
not.
the bid? Yeah, where's the bid on when you have ETH coming up? Why would,
Yeah, but listen, you're literally one candle away from that happening. So you never like to sucking gaps. I like that. Thanks. I know that was nice. But this thing could happen in one candle. But the macro overhang is real. That's the bottom line. Like, it's real. And
let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you think that maybe having like a beach ball underwater kind of effect, where it's like, wow, look, we're doing pretty well even in that environment. Imagine there was a pivot, which is, again, going back to Arthur's article, which is my new favorite reading in crypto. Talking about like that pivot.
He's good. I love his stuff.
So it's really fun to read. Highly recommend it if anyone hasn't found his article or his essays. They're just kind of informative and funny and smart. But going back to what he said, if Powell does pivot, which he thinks he signaled that he's going to, then we get that macro overhang to kind of fuck off, and the beach ball is let go and we just go pop. Because this level, this whole zone here is just begging to be filled. It has to.
Yeah. I still think it will. I'm obviously rooting for it, and I'm a little, it doesn't make me feel great that we're not seeing like some more aggressive buying here. But I guess the bottom line is the thing got hit pretty hard yesterday and bounced back, right? They really hit it yesterday. It traded down to what, 22.5 again? Like,
yeah, I wasn't watching it. I have like just ETH shit on my screens like last couple of days, but it did. Yeah. 22.7.
Like they were selling it. So I don't know.
That to me was kind of like, hey, we've got CPI coming up tomorrow. We've just had sort of a nice breakout, getting smacked down into this local reload zone. Like there was a trade there.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on. I didn't put that one on, but it was a really nice setup. If you just think, obviously this feels gross. And then, if you have those resistances drawn on your chart for things like ETH, you're like, oh, okay, this looks like it could really roll over. There's gaps below. But with the CPI coming, I just felt like we're going to pivot through it. And here we are.
Yeah.
Somebody asked a good question. Who is that? Matt asked a good question. He says, the question for me is, will these things all run together or can they stagger out and we can play rotator? That's a really good question. For example, I really want to have my long position on AVAX for the next couple of years. I want that exposure. And so while I'm waiting for, say, ETH, let's go back to ETH for a sec. While I'm waiting for Ethereum to play out the trade I'm in, which is what I sold some of my AVAX for, if that's going to move up here, if that's going to end up here by March, whatever, how do I get back to AVAX? Because there's a pretty good chance it's going to move too. So I'm not going to just be able to go back and buy my AVAX at $27 or whatever it was that I sold it. But I'm hoping that I can outperform and in the end have a little more AVAX.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is kind of how I could see AVAX playing out. Like a lot of these altcoins, I could just see getting a nice rally through this. Just, you know,
Go.
coming back down.
Pull up the ETH AVAX chart.
Yeah, that's what I really like about CoinTrader
AVAX.
Pro. So you have this here. They actually have a direct pair on Binance too, but this is more like coin market cap data. And it's right. You know, it's right. This is what makes me nervous though. I'm like, okay, so what, I swapped my AVAX to ETH here, and then we get a nice breakout on volume. Like, is this the beginning of an outperform from AVAX?
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to say. I don't see it.
Well, let's look level to level then. Like, let's look at key levels on both charts. If you've got 2,500 in your mind, kind of like as an early target or milestone for ETH, what would that similar milestone be for Avalanche? And let's look at the percent gain there and see if maybe it's not worth it. Because one thing we know about alts, like, they get volatile, and AVAX is not as liquid as ETH, and it should trade with more volatility most of the time, I would imagine. So you are getting into a little bit of you're getting the lesser volatile asset when you swap it into ETH. So if we do make a run higher, there's still the potential that ETH underperforms AVAX.
Yep, I've been thinking about it ever since I made the swap. But, you know, part of me was also just enjoying the concentration of the bet instead of like, you know, it was like a chance for me to really clean up my port and kind of pivot to a more thesis-driven positioning instead of just like, I like all these projects, I'll just hold them. But you're right, you get into this dangerous game of trying to time the market, and it's such a big event. Like we've talked about how it's probably just going to find a way to catch you with your pants down one way or the other. But let's see. So AVAX equivalent to 2,500 is about $55. As far as like resistances go, I think. So let's take a look. Moment of truth. 90% move. Oh. And yeah, that's going to be a much bigger move than ETH.
But, you know, I mean, it's just one way of looking at it. It doesn't mean that it's going to pan out that way. But the bottom line is Avalanche has been more volatile, and should be. It's less liquid. It's less distributed. It's, you know, it should be more volatile most of the time. So that's the one thing. You could have the right kind of mental trade, but it might not be, might not play out the way you want it to.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible. You know, Spinoza says if this is like the BTC halving, wouldn't the trade just be ETH? And that's kind of my thinking. And who knows, like, okay, into the merge, ETH run, it's going to be the main subject. It's really afterwards, like those tokenomics. You know, AVAX does still have a lot of staking inflation. Some of that staking inflation hitting the market. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. So my thinking was, and not to pick on AVAX, you guys know it's my baby, but you know, it's even after that. It's going to be really hard for me to see. I actually foresee a situation where we get into like, remember how Bitcoin, you know, when it starts to run and everything versus Bitcoin just tanks, and then those pairs become really active. I kind of feel like we're going to have a shift into that in ETH terms. Where maybe it's ETH that's really dictating the market. It clearly is now. It's moving the market. It's sort of leading. If we get into a situation where everything is trading on the back of ETH price action, then I think we could see, like, you know, that Bitcoin season, but for ETH. So all that to say, I think, you know, these ETH pairs could falter a little bit, which would help my thesis a little bit, or my positioning anyways.
Yeah. No, I do. I mean,
there we go.
The reaction is going to be really interesting. I hope the thing is deflationary after this. I hope, like, it just makes sense to own Ethereum. That would be great for, I think, prices everywhere. I think, you know,
if they can provide a yield on the scale that they could for like just POS rewards, you know, think about, you know, this is like the bull case obviously, but like think about the kind of pension funds that could step in and say, hey, we're gonna have part allocated to this 8 to 12% annual reward. paid in ETH. Like running ETH nodes has long been talked about as something where, oh, you just need 32 ETH and you can live comfortably the rest of your life. I don't know if I'd go that far, but that's a possibility.
Yep. No, it's very cool. It's good for, I think, crypto in general, like digital assets, the whole thing. It's exciting.
Yeah, let's talk USDC. We had a big event this week with the sanctions from OFAC. What do you make of that? I know the next day, this was kind of feeding the dip yesterday, I think, a little bit. What do you make of that and the idea of like tainted USDC, tainted ETH coming out of Tornado Cash?
Oh, man, I don't know how this problem is going to get solved anytime soon, or I think it's going to take a while to really come to a solution. I don't believe you can just like claim tainted coin, anything that's touched. You saw like guys sending 0.1 ETH or little bits of ETH from like a Tornado Cash and trying to taint people's wallets. That doesn't make sense.
It's weird, eh? Like Brian Armstrong's got some in his wallet now. Like, so I personally would be shocked if they sanction even one more wallet just through the Tornado Cash network. I think dominoes fall, and that's very, very bearish, and people will freak out. For now, they've isolated the Tornado Cash, like the direct contracts, the wallets, sanctioned them, but they haven't started this whole down the path of like, well, anyone who's ever interacted with it's now a criminal. I think if even one shoe falls off there, we're gonna get a pretty nasty reaction. But in lieu of that,
you can track this stuff. I think the bottom line is like chain analysis, the idea of tracking wallets and really trying to stop bad actors, terrorists and child molesters and truly nefarious characters. Like wallets are going to be tracked and analyzed, and the technology to do it and the the pure like mental bandwidth to do that is going to improve and increase, and we're going to be seeing more of it. It's going to be something we talk about all the time, like for years to come. Like, is it right to blacklist, to ban? Like, of course, certain people should not have the right to move money and do evil things. But this isn't going away. This is the beginning of the conversation. There's no solution yet. But you better believe that a lot of resources are being put into this sort of like chain data analysis. No question. I mean,
yeah. And the tools you got to imagine at this point are fairly new, like kind of beta. Like imagine the levels of chain analysis. And of course there's probably, or definitely, certain entities that are creating sort of a network, a naming network. So like we know whose Bitcoin wallet that is, and they're just building their, repertoire. And so that will continue to develop until, I think privacy on Bitcoin for now as it stands is dead in a sense. It was always this kind of, actually I was watching the Zuko interview on Up Only TV that Messi recommended last week. I was watching that. It was interesting. I didn't really know anything about the guy, founder of Zcash, talking about, Zcash has 21 million, just like Bitcoin, and just talking about that kind of optional privacy factor. And I think that was really interesting. Yeah. So do you think there's an angle here where privacy coins can sort of have their day in the sun? That's a nice narrative to let people speculate.
Yeah, why not? But privacy coins are, you better believe they're studying the hell out of those too.
Yeah, everyone's like, I'll just buy Monero. I was like, good luck holding that if they make it illegal. Like they could, if they really want to go to war with privacy.
Yeah, it's tough. But this is so early. These are early days in this this sort of like analysis and blacklisting and all of that. People are lobbing a lot of negative stuff towards like Circle with the USDC blacklisted wallets. Like I don't think there's really a choice for them.
No, they've already decided that they're going to play ball and be the regulated, fully sort of compliant stablecoin. So they have no choice. And that's where it gets interesting, right? Because then you say, okay, well, if you've ever interacted with Tornado Cash, is that a problem? And it's going to be really weird to see it play out. I'm excited to kind of watch that unfold. I don't think it should be taken lightly, but for one, I'm just thinking of ways to spot how this could emerge into a new narrative. And we already saw some stable coins running, like alternative stable coin options, things like Spell. Our boy Danny woke up here. Let's see. He's caught a bid on Spell recently. Really nice volume coming in here saying, Magic Internet Money, save me.
What? So how is everything going with the Magic Internet Money stablecoin? Is that did that come out unscathed through this through the algo stablecoin massacre?
Oh yeah, that's the beauty of it. MIM depegged during an absolute chaotic fear moment. Let's see, it went to back here. I mean, it didn't depeg too far. That was August 2021. Actually, never mind. So it was even more during that fear. It dropped a couple times. Now, they had a very large UST cauldron, if you'll recall, right? They had that bento box strategy where you could lever up your anchor returns by up to 96. So there were some big liquidations over there, but that's the beauty of how it works, right? They liquidated it. It was automated. They didn't really get stuck with any bad debt as far as I know. And the stablecoin lives on. So there's some debate over again, these cauldrons, these LPs, if they have tainted ETH or tainted USDC. There was a lot of fear. I just don't know how any enforcement could be put into that other than a blanket ban on and everything. Imagine FTX. This is what I was thinking. So FTX, you're in your USD basket. There's USDC in there. In those hot wallets, they're huge. They've got to have tainted quote unquote funds coming through that have some point gone through Tornado Cash. Can they freeze Sam's hot wallet? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think if they could, or if that was even a possibility, we'd see a little shift in their basket away from USDC or whatever. So MIM is an alternative. I've been messing around with beans. People follow me on Twitter. They know I'm really liking this bean one, if nothing else, just because it's a relaunch of something that worked. And so it's kind of an opportunity to be early on something that you already have kind of a proof that it works. Now, will it work long term? Who knows? We're going to have to see how the lindiness goes, but I really like beans.
Really?
Not this one. That's depegged. It's not on here, but Beanstalk. I spoke to the team earlier in the spring, and I was really impressed with this Publius guy. Really sharp, friendly, smart. We just nerded out for 2.5 hours on a call with a couple of the guys I work with. And it was just, I was very impressed with it. His takes on what it will take to find the stablecoin algorithm that works. So I've been messing around here. I think it's up and running. I shared some stuff on Twitter. There's another one that's something to do with Ray is the stablecoin. Reflex. There's a Reflex, I want to say ungovernance token or something. Anyways, it was really running. Oh, FLX. Yeah, Reflex or ungovernance. So this guy's been catching a bid. And this is one that actually Vitalik has publicly endorsed, apparently even before this, but again, more recently. Really? So, yeah, decentralized stablecoins. I mean, there's just a matter of time, in my opinion, that they get their bid, and now there's this perfect storm of USD FUD.
Yeah, these algo stable coins, people are going to be doing creative stuff there forever.
Yeah, well, until they find one, right? There's going to be a model that works. Yeah. And then if it really works and it gets to 1, 2, 3 years and it's automatically or organically repegging, you're going to see forks of it. And the forks will get juicier and spicier, and it's fascinating to watch. I love these kinds of things, Share Protocol, Dollar Protocol last year, and all the rest. But the key for me, and this kind of goes without saying, is the risk comes the later into adoption you get. There's risk early, but personally, my attraction to Bean and that was that, they're relaunching. And we kind of already know they work, but I can be early now. So I'm messing around over there a little bit. It's very complex, though. It's very confusing. So, they're great. They do a little thing every week teaching people about it, but I've got to read more through their docs.
Yeah.
For now, FLX looks like it's enjoying a nice bid, and then you're going to see these echoes like Spell. So I think as far as narratives go, we've got ETH2 staking protocols. We've got some DeFi blue chips, which should do well just through by proxy of ETH, mooning. We've got privacy coins possibly catching a narrative sometime in the next bid, although we haven't seen one break out. And the nice thing is you don't have to guess. You just wait. Wait till Zcash or Monero, one of the big blue chip privacy coins, really moons, and then you can just go and rotate into some of the others and catch that echo. And now we've got some algo stable stuff. So there's a few little lists and sectors we can work with into this merge that are, driving the rotator season, which I expect we're going to continue enjoying for the next little while.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk blue chip DeFi, can we pull up? I know Chainlink isn't like blue chip DeFi. It is.
It should be. I mean, it's the Oracle that all the DeFi uses, right?
I'm a big fan. Like oracles are critical for smart contracts and for DeFi in general. So Oracle, the pie for Oracle value is going to grow. Like there's no question, it's going to grow. I do feel that as DeFi grows, Oracle value secured grows. So what are we looking at with Link here? A lot of people are talking about the chart. Are there levels that you see that are kind of targets? Are there any? Is there a good play here? Or are we waiting for a pullback? What do we?
Well, we've got this level here, which is basically the same across the board. ETH has already moved through this level. So again, relative outperformance. Bitcoin looks like it's actually lagging Link a little bit. So Link looks to be outperforming Bitcoin into the same gap. We basically have this gap across the board where it just broke below and it just traded down so sharply. There was no real volume happening at that level. Yeah. Again, being a signal or an indication that we should be trading back up through this to really discover that price. So, yeah, I mean, I think a Link up to 1350 is going to be the trade, at least from here, although it's not the day for me to enter that on the daily. But I mean, so it looks great, and you can see the signal on the volume here. Right? We're down. No real interest from the sellers. Whoa, big final sort of sell-off. Actually had one more. It made another low. So that's interesting. But there's a clear uptick in interest from buyers down here. This arguably, or here, is where the buyers kind of took over. Yeah. And so bulls are in control. And as it turns out, when that's the case, they usually move off the lows. So, yeah, we were looking at Link yesterday on our call, and I don't have a position, but we
should dig into the Link staking. I mean, we should, just to see what the narrative is, what the what the rewards are looking like. I would assume that it's not super inflationary. Link's been out for a while, but I don't know. I haven't done the research.
Yeah, no, me neither.
We should look into it because I think that everyone's been waiting for Link staking for a long time.
Well, yeah, and I mean, look here, it peaked last spring and it kind of missed that second part of the bull market, right? Similar to sushi, it kind of had its like spring rally peak, and it didn't get to enjoy the new highs that a lot of coins made through the end of last year. So, in other words, it's kind of further along, perhaps, in its like resetting of the chart. So, yeah, Link could come and yo-yo back up the other way here ahead of some other names. I don't know anything about it, though. On-chain, I see it's about 47% circulating according to this, although this CoinGecko often takes a little while to update. It's not quite like a 90% circulating coin, but I imagine that's whatever, 10, 20, 30 years of kind of stake rewards baked in. So,
all right, we'll have to
look that up. I have no idea. But I tell you what, look at this high time frame downtrend line, and we've just kind of moved through it. We've got some buyers stepping in, so I wouldn't expect, as I always say, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we're going to a new trend, but I would expect this to be the bottom range now, to some extent, to some direction, to some height, and that would take us up here, and that's good. That's bullish. The longer you trough like that, the bigger the move after.
35, 40%. So
it's a big range. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of these, and you can do some really nice trading through these like washing machine cycles if that's what we get. Where it's just like, in a lot of these coins, this isn't it, but a lot of these coins, it's like up 300%, down 75, up whatever, down, and it'll drive you nuts. And that's usually what you get between a bear and the next bull.
Yeah.
So this is really nice to see, though. Basically, this is like announcing that we're in the bottom range to me, and now it's a matter of letting that bottom range play out.
Yeah. I will tell you, though, like what gets me going a little more, and I haven't back tested this or anything, but what gets me going a little more is finding those parts of the chart where it is that natural target. And when I see that avalanche, it'd be, a bigger kind of run percentage wise to that level than Link or ETH, it gets me just more excited about like taking a little more exposure to the higher vol token. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel, you almost just get that feeling like, okay, if the market does get back to retest this level in general, right, we could assume that AVAX would get back to that level also. I don't know if that assumption is necessarily the right one, but to me, I feel like I have a little edge. It could be completely imaginary, but like that's what comes to my mind. I don't know.
You're not wrong. I mean, it's one of those things that, going back to like previous bulls, when it gets into that season of like, well, what hasn't pumped? What hasn't moved, right? And you start to look for the one that hasn't come up and hit that resistance from last summer. ETH is already there. It's actually kind of flipping it today. Bitcoin lagging, basically everything else lagging in relative terms. And so your point being like, well, let's look for the one that has the most room to move through that. And there's the trade. And I actually really like that thinking.
Yeah, and
Makes a lot of sense.
It's taking the assumption that the market in general is going to get back to that level, right?
Yeah.
Now, you said ETH already did. Now, this is assuming that the market in general, like most of these alts and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin hasn't, like that most of these are going to get back to that level. So then, I don't know if that assumption is right.
The counter to it.
Yeah.
I mean, the counter to that would be the idea of like, well, is it moving? No. Is something outperforming it? Yes. Is there a narrative? Yes. Then like, ride the hot hand. There's a reason these are all lagging, right? Because they're not about to cut their emissions 90%. They're not about to basically be like zero inflation for a few months after the merge. So there's a reason they're lagging. So get on the fastest horse. But I think the rotation game is inevitably going to follow. We get the big ETH day, it outperforms, and then it moves sideways while these all catch up, and then it moves sideways while ETH takes the next leg. And that's kind of the rotations that we'll see most likely. Because ETH gains, humans are humans. They're not going to change. They're going to look for the next way to continue the party. And that'll be like, well, look, ETH is already at resistance or at this high level. Now I'm going to go and buy AVAX because, it's going to probably go through that same thing too.
Yeah.
That'll be the psychology of it. So we should get a really nice rotation season. And I would love that. Look at ETH, or look at Bitcoin dominance. This is like, I can't even imagine the parties that will start in people's minds once this breaks down. I mean, this is just this all-time weekly support, 1, 2, 3, never trust the fourth, as a good friend of mine likes to say. And then we have the lows. If we get into this kind of negative price discovery on Bitcoin dominance, it's going to be a face melter alt season like we've never seen.
Yep.
And I think that'll have a lot to do with this thing just going parabolic. That's ETHBTC leading that. I mean, look at this chart. Just even taking some of this shit off.
Yeah.
What would a target be, right? We had this huge weekly PCZ test, a big blast out of it. What would that look like here? Let's say big fat chaos. Oh.
Are we too bullish? Like, is that one of the risks here, that everyone's just so fucking jazzed up on ETH right now and thinks that it's gonna,
I mean, it does start to feel uncomfortable, right? When you're sitting here singing the same tune that everyone's singing, you start to go, damn it, like at some point we're gonna be on the wrong side of the alpha because you can't all get on board or it stops being alpha. So Yeah, I don't know. I think you have a right to be. I think there is the right reasons, and I don't think it's priced in yet. I just really don't. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. I think there's a lot of, is there going to be a fork? Is it going to be successful? How's it going to look on the other side? Kevin Weiner says, I am uncomfortable. I would not disagree with that statement. I think it's always a little uncomfortable when you are playing, on side with the masses. But look, let's not forget, Rob, there are still probably more people sitting in stables hating this rally right now than there are like, rah, 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 let's go ETH. We're all long.
Yep.
There really is. There's a lot of stables out there to be deployed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if this thing breaks to the upside, I don't know. It's at resistance right now. So relatively speaking, we are being too bullish for exactly where it is. It's usually the days where it smokes resistance that you just want to, cry bull. But let's see. If we break to the upside, it's going to do a lot of dragging the market up across the board. It's going to be really exciting to see.
I didn't read Arthur's post yet, so
I knew it. I smelled that. Yeah, you got to check it out. It's a long one.
Yeah, I know. I usually read it right when it hits. I was out. I have not read it. I'm looking forward to it though.
If nothing else, what I appreciated about it and why I've been talking about it all day is because it is a great example of how to lay out a sort of thesis of how to identify and then break it down into like, okay, so he has like 4 scenarios, right? Where it's, does Powell pivot? Yes or no? And then does the ETH merge go successfully? Yes or no? And that's 4 possible outcomes, right? Powell pivots, it's successful. Doesn't pivot, it's not successful, stuff like that. And he breaks down the outcomes for each of those and his prediction on price for each of those and then averages it out and says, so my net average prediction is this. And I love that sort of meticulous way of going about it. So that was my favorite takeaway. And you could apply that model to future analysis. So, Yep. So we'll see. I'm a bit of an ETH maxi at the moment. I've still got some positions in a few other coins. Like it's not like I just went all in on it, but I definitely shifted some of the larger sort of dormant positions of mine sometime in the last week. So we'll see. Maybe I bought the top at resistance here and we're just going to rotate through the other coins and I wouldn't be shocked, but not too worried about it. Up in USD.
Yep. We will see.
So we had fear creep up to 42 yesterday, and then just that little dip yesterday caused us all the way back down to 31. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in the market, a lot of like knee-jerk type stuff. But we're trending up. So, just like any other chart, you could even imagine a trend line between these two. I feel like we just broke out of the depression, and we're going to go into a nice little run here for the Q4. I'm all for it.
Yeah. It's still a macro world we're living in. I mean, unfortunately, but
it's August. They're asleep, right?
Yeah.
We got a party while they're down. I think they could come in and ruin the party.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll see.
Dixie's breaking down a bit.
Yeah, it should if we're settling in.
I mean, let's not forget the big bull markets we've enjoyed at least since I got into crypto. Were when the Dixie did this. This was the best part of both. And so if we do anything like that into the next year, you can expect that to be a very premature bull run. It would leave a lot of people very salty and sidelined, at least for now, which makes me think it's more probable. Can you
imagine the smell. So they'll drive the next like local top. Them getting in would drive a little local top.
I do find it interesting that despite the previous bull that we just enjoyed not playing out like the one before, right? The Bitcoin, if we want to just pick on Bitcoin here, a lot of this talk I heard near the highs was like, well, we always know that Bitcoin ends its moves in a big parabola and it has to be a blow off top and we haven't seen that, so it can't be the top. And then it was like, oh, wait, it's not the same. It's going to be a different play this year. So this bull did not play out the way that any previous 4 cycle would have predicted. And despite that, which to me is evidence that we should stop paying attention to Bitcoin in 4-year cycles, the market's maturing. But despite that, there's still now this group that's like, well, this isn't how the last bottom played out. So we have to go lower. We have to go sideways. We have to go down because it's not the same. Well, I just don't think this is going to be the same either. So I think it's not great as a rule to be all in or all out. You take great risk, especially for people who got wise and decided, okay, here's where I'm going to get out of my positions to make sure I can just catch that last bit. Just like right up here, it's like I'm going to get all in just to make sure I can be part of this breakout. It's max pain in all directions, my friends.
That's the truth.
So we'll see.
It is the truth, but
Markets will catch you offside.
Bottom line is we're going to be hearing about this ETH merge. Like, we're going to be so sick and tired of it. I swear.
Not as sick as I am of macaroni analysis. Let me tell you that.
What's that?
Macro. I just call them the macaroni analyzers. That's what I call them.
Yeah.
I can't with that shit.
I know.
They're not wrong. It's been driving the bus. I just don't understand it, so it makes me feel bad.
Yeah. No, agreed. I it's not a good.
It's a boring timeline.
World to be living in, the macro world.
Yeah.
That's just
boring.
We need to sign up for this shit. We're trying to,
Let me do some echo pump analyzing. I'm getting now we're in my sweet spot where it's just like, hey, which thing looks like the other? You're literally just playing like pattern recognition.
Well, I'm seeing here that, let's see, there's like a derivative of these ETH proof of work, like ETHW tokens that I think are trading around
BitMEX,
$140. I think let's check out Poloniex, because I know I
wonder if there is ETHW here yet. Let's see.
Justin Sun was quick on that. So what does that tell me? It tells me if you can short that, it probably makes sense that the futures will trade much lower relative to spot Ethereum than they are right now. So, because technically, if you can own Ethereum, get this fork, sell the fork at $140, and you can be hedged with futures at $40, seems like there's $100 in that little spread. So,
wonder where to find. I'm looking on this side screen here to see if I can pull up these ETHW futures. I think they're going to be supported for sure somewhere. There's going to be an exchange who says, I want that volume. And if Binance lists them, then a lot of other exchanges will be forced to follow suit. I don't know. I think it's going to be, we could probably look at Bitcoin Cash and some other examples if we want to do that. I'm still shocked that Ethereum Classic exists. So I may not be the guy to ask. But, not really too focused on that, but maybe I should be. Maybe it's a trade idea we should be looking for. I don't see the ETHW.
All right, so ETHW pair against the USDD. So right now it's trading 81.50.
I see ETHW versus ETH.
So ETHW versus USDD on Poloniex, it traded as high as like $144 a couple days ago. It took some licks yesterday. It was a pretty nasty wick down to $40. So looks like people were putting the ARB on and blasting this thing, just collecting free money. If you can put the ARB on and buy ETH, sell a future at 30 under, and you're collecting $70 on getting short this thing, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
All you have is liquidation risk in your futures account. You need to collateralize it well. So it's just the cost of your collateral there for 6 weeks. But
what do you think of this? We got dropped as low as 40 just in a wick yesterday. Probably not all that liquid, hovering at $81 now. ETHW versus USDD.
Yep.
It's going to be scary. It's not really, it seems just like, I don't know. It's a little bit too crowded of a trade. I just feel like I'll get outsmarted on this one, if I'm being honest.
Well, you can do the math. It's all about having proper collateralization across these exchanges where you're legging this spread. So if you can sell 82s in this ETH proof of work future and you can buy Ethereum coin and sell the December Ethereum future for a $30 premium, then there's $50 there, so like you just need to size it properly and make sure that you are collateralized properly on your short legs on your derivatives.
Are you going to be looking to trade this? Do you have a way to get exposure to this kind of trade? This sounds like a Robbie trade, pulling premiums out of futures. And...
No, I'm not personally trading this. In the US, it's tough to trade futures on this stuff. You could do it CME wise, but there's no real way. Like, you got to be able to short this ETHW future. Which I
think I heard is on BitMEX now. It looks like Poloniex as well.
Yeah.
I feel like FTX would jump on it, but maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not personally doing this, but we're gonna be watching volatility in this spread and in ETH in general because of this, and volume is gonna increase just because of this little ARB. But it's interesting. I mean, that's what the pros are looking at. There's no question.
Yeah. Yeah, because it, to me, it doesn't sound sexy, like capturing this little spread in between, but I guess the idea is like, but what are you risking there? It's almost a risk-free trade when you're just grabbing premium that's sitting there. And that's sort of a little bit outside of my wheelhouse as far as that kind of stuff. I did see a funny comment in the thing. Greg Domain says, we're getting giga bullish at the tip of a rising wedge. What could go wrong? My friend, everything could go wrong.
Agreed.
At any time. Be aware.
I feel like a little nutso. That's why this ETH event is one thing, but this market is still macro driven. That we could completely fall out of that wedge. There's no question. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if this is the wedge he's talking about either. I can't confirm that, if he's on Bitcoin or some other chart, but I have been thinking about this kind of a rising wedge thing. I don't know. Could that get into the merge? That'd be a little far gone for this, but yeah.
Wasn't the ETHBTC chart like a real
Oh yeah, this one was a nasty rising wedge that we just kind of lifted out of. I think I actually had it on here. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. And I was watching this yesterday just thinking like, oh man, I don't know why these are off. Maybe it was a daily.
Yeah, that could be a nasty fucking bull trap. Who knows?
Yeah, right at this big fat resistance, right? So let's see how many tests. We got the 1, 2, 3, broke through, back below. So 1, 2, 3. We're kind of in the 3 and 4 test area. So, but this wouldn't be too much fun for guys like me who somehow through this wedge got sucked into rotating into ETH. Am I on the wrong side of this one? We'll find out. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Until we dip down to the 0.06, but. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I would not be shocked at all to see some other coins, namely Bitcoin and that, coming up to fill that big gap. ETH kind of pausing at resistance while everything outperforms, catches up. We roll into here and then really get a go. That would make sense, actually. So we'll see. We'll see how much legs it has, right? At some point, the risk reward on ETH is going to be less sexy compared to all the other ones you talked about earlier, like that whole less liquidity on AVAX. And that's why you get rotation seasons, because at some point nobody wants to buy the big thing that's already been rallying. They want to buy the new one that they can catch the next rally. So I'm looking forward to the rotation season. That's where I shine. That's where I like to just. It's a lot easier to trade than sort of these kind of like sideways choppy ranges with no particular narrative or shift or sector.
I mean, the volatility in that stuff is higher, so there's a reason it's more fun, and it can break you.
Yeah. Yeah, we had it signaled here. Nice little trend line dip through all that. So look, if we do roll back and we don't just break out of here, first of all, if we flip this level, oh my God, this would be a place to look at an ETHBTC setup for alongside. Now, if we don't, and we just chop here and then get rejected, everything else starts catching up to ETH. You better believe I'm going to be getting real interested down here for further adding to my merge bag. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it's going to come back for too many people. I get that feeling. that ETH is going to have us in disbelief, say, oh no, it couldn't possibly break out of this range, and it might just do the thing. There's some really interesting, I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's like a fractal of the ETH bottom before, and then this kind of ETH chart. I don't have it on me, so I can't really, but it was a very cool little chart. I'm going to see on the side here if I can find it, but it was kind of comparing the two, and this would be the reaccumulation before the next move, and I obviously love that thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can see it though. Oh yeah, here it is. Yes. Okay. So what do you think of this? So this being, let's see here, ETH perp Bybit. Okay, so this is right now, and this is the ETH bottom from the last bear market. So the idea being that we're just in this kind of reaccumulation, and then we're going to spur off into the next. So if you're a merger and you're into this kind of trade, I think this is the kind of thinking that you've got to have in your mind. At least this is how I'm looking at it for that bag that I'm trading through the merge.
I mean, fuck it. It looks identical.
They do look identical. I will say that.
I mean, it looks good. Fractals always get me because you can kind of always find fractals of stuff that match. But I'm sure there's one that just shows this thing cratering too. But I believe it. I think there's an event, there's a catalyst. Why not? Unless the macro world just gets much darker quickly.
Yeah.
My bet is that we'll see a little impulse here.
This would make sense, right? I look at this, I say, "Oh shit!" I agree. Fractals are dangerous, right? Because they look like, "Oh, this is what will happen." It's so compelling when you look at it. But seeing this helped me shift my perspective because you know me, I'm so abundantly cautious that when I get into a situation like this, even though I'm really bullish, all I can see is like, hey, we're going to come down and, we're going to come test this level and we're going to come back and visit this gap and, there's going to be FUD into the fork. And I'm looking at it in this, like, there's so much gravity on the chart when objectively this is an uptrend. It is accelerating and there's no reason to think that it will stop before this event. And there's a lot of reason to think that it could continue after. And so this chart just gave me a little bit of that perspective I needed to be like, oh yeah, these things do happen. And this would catch a lot of people with their pants down, which is what the market tends to love doing.
What's up, Patrick Rooney? I see you in the chat. What's going on? He writes, that's a sweet comparison.
I'd love to give credit. I don't know who made this. There's a few, I know somebody, a few on Twitter that I saw, but I don't know who made this one. I just copied it from Telegram. So
yeah, no, it is a good one. It makes you think, but you always have to take these things with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But
it's very compelling. But that's TA for you, right?
It is. And the one thing I am certain of, our focus on this today, which could seem like overkill and just so super hype, I don't think we've seen the hype yet. This is going to get so much more hyped.
It's not a public trade yet. I mean, within crypto it is, right? It's everyone's talking about it, but it's still like 85% of the normie kind of crowd that has left. They're not talking about the merge. They're scoffing at it. They're saying, this rally is just going to fail like all the others. Jim Cramer's not talking about it. I agree. I think that the hype is probably still on the way.
Yeah, forget Jim Cramer. I mean, God,
he's just my public proxy. Like when he starts saying buy ETH at 3,600, like if I haven't yet, I'm getting the fuck out.
But yeah, I guess he probably will. But I mean, I'm talking about people who can actually place some bets. I want to see some real funds out there, like taking some swings. I couldn't think of a better time. I mean, I think we're going to see some people take some big swings here. I really do. I'm confident.
Like a call whale. Remember the options whale?
Yeah.
That was coming in last year, whenever that was, 2 years ago. And he was just like moving the market on his like tweets where they were tracking like, this whale just took another, 6,000 longs on ETH on the calls.
We should see it. If not, I mean, God.
Well,
it's a
that's why I'm so excited right now.
sad state of
Yeah.
like trading and funds and like, I mean, guys should be taking some swings here, and guys and gals too.
Well, this is why I think this is such an exciting level, because this is the kind of thing and where you say to TA where it's like, oh, a lot of guys were taking shots here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys were waiting for that breakout and they were taking shots here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a huge crowd of types of traders and types of funds who just want to see this level recovered. And if they do, especially on such a short notice, like what is that, 10 days, 15 days, it's going to, if it takes it. And so on any kind of retest, which I'd actually almost expect gets front run, there's just a whole new ocean of capital that's ready to deploy on that kind of a setup.
Yeah.
That's
well,
just,
also,
like that's their trigger. So
yeah. Well, we'll get a sense too. Like, what if people are taking some levered swings here? Like, what if people are placing some big bets and they kind of get a little shaken out before the event? That happens a lot. So, what I think we'll see is we should see some volatility. If we don't, I'm going to be kind of bummed out. I'll be honest. I'm going to be let
if we
down.
don't see any volatility to the upside, I'm going to be bummed out.
Yeah, but both though.
Yeah, in general.
No, I mean, you could trade action. If there's volatility both ways, that means you can take some rips in there after you get sharp moves.
I'll tell you what I will be doing. Auto buying Ethereum or some other names the next time they hit these 382s from the lows to here. And if that comes, I don't know if it's going to come, but if it does, I'm not going to hesitate. This PCZ season has really taken off. We've seen it a couple times now. So not to be shy around these kinds of levels right now is what I'm learning. Beautiful example here, and then put in like an empire fractal with these 3 candles. So like such a textbook.
That is. It doesn't it feel good? Like, I don't do it enough. I'm just not good enough with the charts. I wish I just had your charts all day I was staring at, but
another one here.
It feels good to take a shot there. Like you're in validation. When you've got some levels where you can take some trades, it feels good. You're not just like sticking your thumb out in the wind, like you're actually trading with a plan. So when you have levels in mind,
well, you say something's bullish, that's bullish. I would like a position. Today is the day I decided that, because up candles always makes me want to buy stuff. This is, I'm speaking generally, this is how we think. And so it's about finding that discipline to like find a tool, which is why I love this one. And you just follow it up and you just say, I don't know if it's coming back for me, but I know this. If it does, and I can get filled in and around this 382.5, that's my stepping stone onto the train. That's my stair. I don't know. That's my staircase onto the train. That's where I'm getting in. And the problem is, if you don't stay disciplined and you start saying, oh, I'm just going to buy, uncanny ability for the market to make you sell right through that. Mm-hmm. And so instead of loading here, being patient, you load it here and you feel so butthurt and underwater that you end up selling here. I know this. How do I know this? Because I've done it before. Many times, right? Whatever's happening through these 3 days, I guarantee you was like uncomfortable and scary, and people were seeing recent gains evaporate and they got out, or they sized down because they didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. Having those bids working, and then some nasty bad news comes, tornado cash, blah, blah, blah. But then your bids and your alerts go off and you're saying, I'm filled. And you're like, oh, fuck, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to just stick to the plan. And each time in the last month that's happened, we've had a really rewarding follow-up. So I don't think I'm going to stop that now. And especially if this ends up being like aligned with this level, that would be so sexy. So you get this SR level right in the PCZ, filling at 1750, 1800 when we come back down, if we do. That'll be my next kind of meaty long position. Yeah,
it's it's going to get hype in here.
Speaking of which, for anyone who's like, what am I actually trading right now? I actually do have a long setup on here. I don't know if it's going to fill. It is sitting in the PCZ. This is all Filecoin, which got rinsed naturally because it had that crazy FDV. What was the FDV up here? Something like 80 billion or 100 billion. Like, it was so ridiculous, right?
Gosh.
But look at it now. It's got this huge bid coming in off the lows. Bulls stepping in. The kind of bulls that put lows in that I don't mind getting long with them because they're going to protect that level, in theory. And so you kind of have two choices here. We're either in pump chaser zone season, so I'm getting aggressive up here, or I can try to find something a little cheekier down in the reload zone and get long there. But this is just one out of many that I found that I'm just going to take a shot on.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, but
I've seen some hype there. Definitely seen some. Let's see a partner, not a partner, but a comp to that. Pull up Arweave.
oh
See
yeah,
if that thing's gotten,
oh, looks good, decimated, but it
gotten
looks,
small.
yeah, it did. But look, I mean, it got, but has anything changed, right? Fundamentally, has anything changed? Has the usage changed? Has the value prop changed? And so if not, then this can be viewed purely as a discount, which is really, when you have conviction, you got to think, okay, it's not less attractive to me down here. It's more attractive. I don't have a position in this. They don't sell it on spot markets in FTX. So having been kicked off Binance because of where I live, I don't think I can buy this one.
That stinks.
Yeah, it's not very fun. So I could have it on a perp, but it doesn't feel the same. You don't want to take long-term positions on perps. So,
well, you know what? Funding has not been. This has been bear markets are the time to do that because funding actually can be negative on some of that stuff.
yeah,
So
that's a good point.
I wouldn't necessarily feel that way when funding is juiced and you're paying 30%, 40%, 50% annualized to hold a perp. Yeah, it's not the play, but funding has been favorable.
I think they have it in a spot market on
They do on KuCoin.
on KuCoin. Yeah, so never mind. I can go pick some up. I actually have funds over there too. So yeah, I might take another look at Arweave then, because it is one of the ones, I know you and Dan kind of beat the drum on this one through the whole bull, and I just thought someday I'd like to have that in my sort of longer bag. And let's see, zooming in, it does actually look really good here.
Yeah, I know
it's kind of flagging out here, breaking out a bit.
Some smart guys really like it.
So we could ignore that wick if we want. We could bring it in. Either way, it did that thing, right? It did that kind of PCZ visit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, actually, this might be one. If anything, I don't have to really try to time it too perfectly if I just go in with like a reasonable little size position and forget about it for a little while.
Yeah.
Because my question, if I'm buying here in that kind of size, then my only question is when do we get up here? Oh, that's cool. The PCZ aligns perfectly with the 618 here. So, these are some levels, and all of a sudden, look at that. That's probably a 100% move. Yeah, 140. So anything I buy here, if I can somehow hold it to just a double and then sell half my position, I now just have a free bag of Arweave for whatever.
Yeah.
Put in $500, grows to 1,000, take my 500 back, and now I've just got that extra bag in there that I can hold indefinitely. And in a few years, when you and Gunny are talking about, oh my God, Arweave at 15 was so sexy, I'll have that free position. And God willing.
It's a liquid. It's a liquid and it's volatile. It's in the volatile camp. There's liquidity vacuums there. But the volatility works both ways. It works in a 90% retrace from all-time high, or and it also can work on a little mean reversion. So, but it's volatile.
You can see a clear shift here in the momentum as far as volume goes, right? Down, 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 running out of sellers, really putting in these lows here. I guess this would be the final low, and now it's just been bulls are back. So there is some support stepping in here, which really is what we're seeing across the market for majors and mid caps. But yeah, this is an investable level for me. I think I'm going to pick up some Arweave on KuCoin.
Decentralized storage, right?
Infra. It's an infra play.
Yeah.
So bullish on stuff that needs things, buy things.
Yep.
Kind of thinking. We've got a request for Adam. We've got some talk of SNX. We'll do a couple of these guys, and then I got to run. It is it's my baby's first birthday today. Happy birthday, little man.
It's my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
There you go. Hi, Ma. So, I'm going to go and take him out and do some fun stuff today, even though he doesn't know it's his birthday, but I know. Ooh.
He's a Leo, huh?
Yeah. yeah, I don't know. I don't follow astrology, but yeah, same thing in Atom, right? Buyers really taking over control down here in the lows, which is what you want to see. Looks like I have some old drawings way back. Let's see. Yeah, see, like Atom looks good, right? You got support or resistance, support, breaks down, recovers, and that should trigger the next mid swing up to here.
That looks like the Arweave chart. I mean,
yeah,
so
and the
similar.
AVAX and the link, right? There, that's the thing, right? So then it's pick your poison, find your narrative, which one will move first if you want to optimize.
I think you roll some dice on the ones with the bigger gap. If it's as, if you feel equally as bullish, like fundamentally, then I think you got to take some high vol plays there. That's the gunner in me.
Yeah, see, and you haven't read the Arthur thing that kind of got me off of that tip, moving back towards ETH. Now I've got to circle back and kind of, because I really like your point. I think you got a good point there.
I don't
keep
know.
Me sober.
I'm not taking anything away from ETH, but I don't know.
See. So we've got a little more implied upside here if we're just looking at this level across the board. So 89. For AVAX, we've got 78 for Atom. Let's see what Link is. And then maybe we'll do Solana.
Link's only like 35-40%, I think.
Yeah, not too much. Yep. Let's see. Yep, we need a daily.
But, yeah, I mean, this
this one's half cooked already.
Which isn't necessarily bad. I mean, they do have an event coming, so who knows? But this is like some back of the envelope kind of.
Yeah, 37, and again, this is a really great opportunity for me to start dragging this thing up behind it if I want to join this trade. And you can see now, I mean, it would make sense for many reasons. We've got that SR level here, so if this tops out here for a little bit, any wick there is like my chance to get on board with this one if I want to trade Link. I don't think I'm going to pick Link. Let's see here. Let's go Solana.
I think it's going to be a big gap to fill.
We've got Solana Breakpoint coming up again in Lisbon this year in the fall. So that could be a nice little thing for people to chew on while they're thinking about what to buy.
Yes.
Everyone loves buying the pre-conference. Let's go see here. It's a 2x.
It's a 2x. Yeah.
And so again, this coming back to say, do I want to have a long-term Solana bag? And if so, do I want to try to keep it as risk-free as possible? So can I get a double, right? If I load here, how long do I have to wait to sell half that position? And now I just have this like long-term risk-free position on Solana, risk-free.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a guarantee, but that's the kind of thinking I get when I'm in these lower ranges, is just catch some doubles. The best part about that, to employ a strategy like that right now, is that the probability is we get some kind of washing machine market cycle here, right? Where the higher probability outcome to this next phase of the market is that it's not just straight up and to the right. It could be, but it could cycle like this where you just get these big moves up and then some kind of bearish catalyst, and then you come into these deep, dirty reload zones. And so if I'm playing this like sell half on a double here, I can reload it right here. And then I can sell half on a double, and I can reload it right here. And the longer you get this part of the market that is actually driving everyone nuts, you can actually be using it to like build these free positions over time. And so that's going to be a really exciting kind of way to look at this over the next 8 to 12 months, maybe a little more.
Yeah. Let's hit up Coach Papa Vic. He's talking about Near, and Near's been it's been chugging along lately. This was a big 3 arrows bag, so I don't know how much damage was done by that capitulation, but this probably poised. I mean,
and it's kind of at a level right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the level. It's not the level. I think that would be back here. That's Feb 22nd. Yeah, this chart in general, I think it's just different because it launched a little later, so we don't get that clean cut level like the others, but it's already made a move up really nicely, actually.
Yeah.
And so like all the others, like anything, right? Where can I get in? Well, there's already kind of a level forming there too. Right on the 382. So just say we did roll here, peak here, any kind of little boop, and then, then I can play. So, yeah, there's a nice level forming there. There's a little gap down here, 475. And then, everything looks the same, I think, is what we can conclude right now. There's minor variations, but everything looks the same. And that's great because everything looks good for upside. So
and usually when things look, it depends. Yeah. I'm just scarred by this macro overhang. But
what are your thoughts on that? Let's we're wrapping up. We're getting to the end of the hour. Hour and a half, as it turns out. We got bonus time today. Let's share some of your thoughts. What keeps you up at night right now with macro? Powell pivoting, not pivoting, more war, more talk of Taiwan. Like, what is it you're thinking about?
I'm just thinking about it's a different vibe altogether. There's just more. There's a lot of smart people are nervous about the next little stretch and think that we haven't seen the darkest hour for these markets yet on this shift. So, we've had a big shift in monetary policy, just the idea of we've got to fight this inflation at whatever cost, which means raising rates and slowing the shit down. Like the Fed said, we want to slow things down, right? So how much a slowdown would really kind of take its toll on the market. Like, let's just say that Apple and Amazon and Google, in a real slowdown, that their numbers really slow down and they're making less money. And so now even the stock prices are starting to look more expensive on a forward valuation. And you just can get into a nasty little cycle equity wise. And with rates rise, it's just people think that's coming. But doesn't mean they're going to be right. I tend to think that when all is said and done, the Fed and these central banks will need to fight a downturn with really rosy, dovish, and reverting back to looser or less contractionary policy. And then people are just going to kind of get into the understanding that over time, with what we've done with rates and with the debt that's outstanding, that we're going to end up just continuing to march along that path where then Bitcoin and these assets are going to just absolutely moon. But that near term, we haven't seen the worst of the recession and that even in Europe, and they're having issues with the euro, and there could be something there, and in Asia and China, with their zero COVID, that's the stuff that, people
could ruin our party.
It could. It could. I'm not saying it will. I think these are long-term buying opportunities for the good stuff out here. I really do. I've been saying it for a while. It doesn't mean that we're at lows.
Spinoza pointed out, he says, Rob's summarizing Arthur without even reading it. You did just highlight a lot of the stuff he discussed in there from a macro
But I've been
perspective,
saying, this is, RT, I've been saying this. I've been speaking.
No, yeah, that's the point, though, is he
Yeah.
kind of put a big brain next to it. It's you're on, I think you're on the ball. This is going to catch some people off guard. I think it could very quickly shift you saw even with tornado cash yesterday, it felt like the sky was falling there for a few hours with Ethereum, right? It's like everyone forgot about this merge. What do you think of this melt up thesis? This kind of idea that maybe collapse, but one more melt up first. Or are you more on side with the bottom's not in for TradFi and therefore you go crypto better watch out?
I honestly don't know. I think that if the earnings of these companies really does get shitty, which I don't think they will, I think they might, they might not be as rosy, but I'm not in this camp where we're going to get some depression where the U.S.'s GDP is negative 5% for a year or something that's, and if we think about that, negative 5%, that'd be a huge, it'd be a really, really bad thing. But if we think about 5%, in our markets, it's that's a mouse fart in crypto. 5% moves it's just literally they happen every day. But eventually, the thesis is that like these central banks will, I think you can only be hawkish for so long, and it's inevitable that hawkishness and that contractionary policy will shift, and they're gonna, I think, have to turn a lot more dovish and friendly. And you know,
They have to print.
The long-term trend is that hard assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, especially if they're like deflationary, look out. Like they're going to go so much higher in fiat terms. So
yeah, if you ask Andreas Antonopoulos, if you guys haven't seen it, check out the Death of Money interview he did on London Real. And it was years ago, but he outlined the monetary policies that lead to this kind of inflationary debt spiral. And it was fascinating stuff. You know, the idea of governments trying to rush to devalue their currencies against each other, which sounds counterintuitive. But if I owe somebody 100 million US and then I devalue US, then I'm relatively reducing my debt. And so he basically foretold a lot of this stuff. He's like, oh yeah, they're going to have to print like crazy to bail out all these things. And then if they don't keep printing, it's going to collapse. It's all happening. And so then it's like, which is the narrative that will be used? And this is, I think, even a lot of people with COVID, they were like, oh, it's all a sham. They're just using this as an excuse to print money and reduce freedoms. I don't know about all that, but I do know that based on what he's talking about, and everything he talked about then is kind of coming true, they're going to have to print. They're going to have to pivot. They're going to have to get off this thing and just to go back to supporting asset prices. And I say this all as like a regurgitation of smarter people's thinking, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. It's going to be a rocky road. I don't think it's going to be an easy trade. You know, so I'm actually trying to be more of an investor right now as far as like Ethereum, some of these like names down here at the lows. I think Bitcoin is still investable at these levels for me. Arweave now on my list. Another little name we talked about earlier, S-Wise is one that I actually already picked up at this breakout at like 15 cents. I'd like to get some more here. I don't think Lido and all these other staking protocols are done, and this could be like one. So I'd like to be here for the next leg. The next leg's usually the biggest one. If you're into like Elliott waves, you know, which I don't really do typically, but it's the idea of like wave 1, 2, the 3 is usually the big one, and then the 4 or 5 is like the exhaustion top, and then A, B, G. So yeah. I'd like to see something like this into and through the merge for some of these staking protocols, the Echoes, the ETH derivatives. So this is what I imagine in my head. I'm going to try to pick some of this up today around whatever, 18 cents, I guess. Nothing crazy, but I definitely want to add to it a little bit now that it's at my level. So yeah, let's take a look. Métis looks like it wants to move higher. Bulls in control. Bears nowhere to be found on the volume. Nice fat Chaos PRZ up here at 71 bucks. So there's so many coins out there setting up nicely, sitting in levels or hovering above levels. Very tempting to rush and buy this ETH breakout, but I don't think I'm going to add here on ETH.
Matey.
Let's
see. We got a couple more and then we got a jet, but let's see. We got some guys asking about Arbitrum season, DopeX, GMX, etc. That's for John.
I saw DopeX was moving. Somebody shared that earlier. Let's see, DPX.
Justice Canfield, he's always around. He's asking about KDA with a wink.
Okay. Yeah, DopeX is really moving this morning. I saw that in another channel. Don't know much about it. It's kind of like on-chain options.
I like the thesis.
Yeah. Dare say I'm bullish on on-chain options. I think there is something to be said for an Arbitrum kind of play. We're highly likely that they're going to come out with a token. Optimism has just mooned, so it'll be a bullish premise for Arbitrum's, price discovery. How can I get access to that Arbitrum airdrop? And I think participating on chain is going to be the answer to that. So I'd like to have that on our docket next week. We'll talk with Messi. We'll pick his brain. And if you guys have any plays, things you're doing over on Arbitrum that you're like, I think this is a way for me to get access to that airdrop, then I'd love to hear it. I've only done a few things on Arbitrum around GMX, and it wasn't for like a long time, so I'm probably not going to get much right now. But if participating over on Arbitrum now can be a thing, and then if that narrative picks up, you get that ecosystem rally like we just saw in Métis and last year in AVAX. So yeah, that's something we should look at. next week. And if, you don't have to wait for us next week, you can start diving into that. I think that's going to be a nice narrative too for the next little while. How to capitalize on an Arbitrum airdrop through participation. Yeah, KDA. Wow. I don't know what this does, but that chart, if we just came up through here and reclaimed,
Oh my goodness.
this one could go if it's going to go. I don't know what it does. So we'd have to really look at it, but
Justice Canfield throwing a little.
yeah, appreciate that, man. That's a nice looking chart. I'd have to figure out.
Golly,
I'm
that
going
looks-
to sick one of our analysts on it today and see what we can come up with Kadena. So
Goodness
thank you for that.
gracious.
KDA is a POW smart contract platform. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, no, I got a guy that I know runs a fund. He's a big fan of it. Works with those guys.
KDA?
Then, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Rob's
I-
friends like it. That's
No,
all we
I
had to
don't-
know.
No, I don't know though. I've never really dug into it. I'm being
Well, the
perfectly
chart,
honest.
yeah, this is where I like to, research the chart. When it looks like this, let's zoom in a bit. Oof. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Alejandro tomorrow. He's gonna be at the little Hero Fest thing. I'll ask him. Give me your Kadena thesis, and I'll circle back.
Nice.
Next week.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. There, you heard it here first. We're gonna get the
Doing research.
we're gonna get the breakdown live action from Rob next week on KDA.
We're doing
And
research.
in the meantime, you can imagine I'll probably be doing, we actually just had kind of a front run of this on the pullback. I love that. That's a really bullish sign. When you get these pullbacks and it doesn't even hit the 382, I find that can lead to an explosive reaction. So we'll see. I love the look of it. And if it's a really bullish thing, it's a little under the radar. If it's POW, what if the ETH miners could switch to KDA? Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
Hey guys, if you're in the chat, you're with us here. Smash that like button. Let's get some algo love.
Yeah, send some love to the algo, guys. We're going to switch back to the studio here as we wrap up on this fabulous Wednesday afternoon in the markets. Things looking good after CPI print. But it is Wednesday. I find when we used to do our Wednesday streams and things were always so bullish, and then into the weekend and we were like, there was the top. But who knows? I'm not really looking to call tops right now. Fundamental drivers are too strong. The macaroni stuff is all put to sleep till September now. So I'm just looking for 382 dips and looking to hold what I've got. Let's enjoy the ride, guys. Playing from strength, all the fun stuff. And thanks for coming out today. It was great to see you all here in the chat, chilling.
It's good stuff. All right.
All right. Whatever you do from now until next time, always play from a position of strength. Take care.